Sitting here in front of me today is everything we are going to need to completely overhaul our Chungyang 23cc engine. Sit back and relax as we completely overhaul this engine. Got a snapped off bolt here. Hello there. Whoa. So before we dig too far into this engine, let me explain why we're doing this. So it all started last year. I always found this engine a little on the slow side. In fact, a lot on the slow side. So I bought a few little bolt-ons for this engine to try to boost performance out of it. So as you see here, I have the lightened flywheel. It's a Dark Soul lightened flywheel. I tried different clutch springs. I tried tuning it. I tried different fuel to oil ratios. And basically, last year I was doing experimenting with about 50-to-1 oil, maybe a little less. And of course, it was the hottest day of the year. I decided to run this thing. I was beating the absolute snot out of this, full throttle, not letting off, all kinds of abuse to this engine. Long story short, the engine casts out of nowhere. I walk over to it, give it a couple pulls. It won't fire back up. In fact, it feels like it has almost zero compression. So I bring it back home, I let it cool off. I throw the compression tester onto it. It's got barely 60 psi. So on top of severely overheating the engine, I also crushed not one, but 2 air filters. And basically what happens when you crush them is, you can see, especially with this one, it deforms the sealing surface. So basically, this engine ingested a lot of dirt on top of overheating. So yeah, I cooked it. I puttered around with it a bit last year, and I did get it to run again, and it never quite recovered from it. It was even more slow than it was originally. And yeah, so we're taking this thing apart and rebuilding it. Before we actually get into the internals of this engine, we will be going ahead and blowing all the dust off. The less dirt we get into this engine, the better. Let's say that clutch is about done. So I don't seem to have bolts long enough to pull the flywheel today. So what I'm going to do is pull the head. That's what everyone wants to see anyways. So I went out and bought myself these T27 long reach Torx bits from Matco Tools. This truck seemed to use a lot of them, so I thought, hey, might as well get some good ones. I have a 1/4 inch here, and I also have a 3/8 on the gun already. There's one head bolt. Alright. Our gasket's sticking. And, oh, here we go. Not gonna lie, this engine's a lot better than what I thought it was gonna look like. Now, as I wipe this oil off, I want to point something out to you guys. I'm gonna wipe all this off the side of the piston, so you can see the scoring on this side of the piston. Now check out the scoring on this side of the piston. A lot better than this side. This side is your intake side of the piston. So if you have a bunch of scoring on the intake side of your piston, it's been sucking in a bunch of dirt. Lots of people, kind of funny, people are showing off the exhaust side of their piston and they go, oh, look at all the dirt's been sucking in. Yeah, if you have scoring on the exhaust side of your piston, chances are you haven't been sucking in dirt. Chances are you've been running not enough oil, or could be not letting it warm up enough before use. Could be a few things. But yeah, I might make more of a video on that one day. But like I said, once again, this is the intake side of the piston. You can see how scored it is. Exhaust side of the piston, there's like nothing there. Man, check out how terrible this gasket fits. It's kind of funny. They're like blocking off a bit of your transfer right there, and then where you need the seal, it's not there. Don't try this at home. I'm a trained professional. I think. Whoa. Bam. Don't lose that, whatever you do. cow. Now let's pull the piston and crank assembly. There she be. Put. Now that the engine's totally disassembled, let's check out the damage to the top end of the engine. So now that you guys have seen the damage done to the piston, let's check out the cylinder. So right now we're on the intake side of the cylinder. You can see the obvious scoring up top. And if you look closely, you can also see, if I get my driver bit in here, you can see this funky part right here. What that mark is the actual plating rubbed off of the cylinder. We also observe it right here as well. Onto the exhaust side. We have some more scoring. Here we have the top of the combustion chamber. If you look very closely, you can see dirt contaminants just stuck up there. So this engine has obvious signs that dirt has gotten in. And this is still a theory yet in my head, but what I'm thinking these marks are on the cylinder, this one right here and this one over here, again, it's just a theory, but I'm thinking possibly the rod bearings have gone, so the piston's sitting at a funky angle. But if it's not going in the cylinder true, it's on an angle, it's gonna wear unevenly. So I'm thinking we have a possible bad crank as well, but that could also give us a chance to upgrade to a stuffed crank. More performance. Now you guys let me know what you want me to do in the comments. Do you want me to go with the original plan and slap the new parts on? Or since this engine's on its last legs, I had another idea. I could make a video on porting the snot out of this engine, intake and exhaust, possibly transfers, put it back together stock, run it, see if there's any improvement, and then we'll slowly put my bolt-ons on. So I got a Total Racing snapper clutch, as well as I have a modified 990 carburetor. So we can run it stock, see the performance improvements, then slap all my goodies I have on to the stock engine. And if I'm not happy with it, or like I said, just an experiment, if we're not happy with it, then we slap the big bore, ported big bore kit I have. Let me know in the comments. So to recap, if we're building the engine with the performance parts, we're going to have a stuffed crank, a big bore piston and cylinder, ported as well, brand new bearings, brand new crank seals, brand new modified 990 carburetor, a Lightened flywheel, and a Turtle Racing snapper clutch. That would be the quote-unquote rebuilded modified engine that we're doing with just bolt-ons. Or option number 2, do you want me to put this back together stock? But when I put it back together stock, I mean using the original top end, but porting it myself, and then adding a couple bolt-ons to it. Let me know.